Welcome to the Champion Blueprint Podcast, where mindset meets mission.
We're diving into what it really takes to lead, win, and live with purpose.
From NFL locker rooms to boardrooms, it's all about discipline, core values, and the habits that build champions.
Whether you're leveling up in business, life, or leadership, this is your playbook.
Champion your mindset.
Champion your purpose.
Let's go.
Welcome, everybody, to Champion Blueprint, the podcast. I'm George Rogers, along with Gary Brackett here, once again, bringing you some great insights, strategies, some tips. Gary, today we're going to change it up. We did a lot of positivity, and over the course of the last few months, one of the things, especially in the month of May, and I know this is coming out afterwards, but May was a month of like well-being and mental health.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but personally, there's, I've dealt with some tragedies and losing people due to they succumb to their mental, well-being, and so sometimes those things happen because of burnout.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk a little bit because we've both been entrepreneurs in our own perspective, you in the real estate, me in the retail and tech industry. Growing sometimes can be difficult. Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about scaling through burnout, right? Okay. And so there's a lot of burnout that happens through this. Talk a little bit about what burnout means to you. Have you ever experienced it personally? Because it's not necessarily just always within the workplace. Sometimes we can be burnt out with family. Yeah. We can get burnt out from a personal standpoint, but burnout just happens in general. Talk a little bit about, any experiences you may have happened or seen, or people that you may know that dealt with it as well.
Yeah, man. I remember, also, I had the restaurant Stack Pickle, right? At that time, 2020, had 10 locations, 400 employees, and we were a machine. We were pumping it out. We had some franchisees on the road, but I can remember us being in our manager meetings. We had Wednesday manager meetings. We're going over our numbers, and we got a call for my IUPY location, and they said that their kitchen was on fire. Right. And we have protocols, and there's a fail safe where you pull the machine and exhaust comes out and that gets it out. That's the last resort, right? Because you got to shut down, you got to clean everything, throw everything away. So there was extinguishers that we had, and they pulled the extinguisher and it didn't work. So then that was the last call we got in the meeting. So me and the district managers got in the car. We immediately went down there, and we couldn't get in touch with them for like 20 minutes.
Oh man!
So I'm driving down there just thinking the worst, right?
Yeah.
Like this is on the bottom of like a high rise, like 10-story building. I'm like, we done burnt down like a whole high rise on Indian Avenue. Like, I'm just like, I'm like the overwhelm was just like, thankfully
the mind can be going to so many different places. Like Stack Pickles is now taking over.
Like it's over. Like I'm shutting it down. I'm done with this. I'm stressed out. Man, but we had several examples like that where, accidents and things like that, man, it's overwhelming. Running a business is tough.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel like burnout is, when you get to the point where you want to give up, or you get to the point where you can't do it anymore, right? You worked hard and like, you just don't have that passion anymore. And I think, it occurs from an ownership perspective, but it also, occurs in our employees.
Yeah.
When we're at one point, we're growing a store every year, every other year. And I'm relying on some of my key employees, to go open up stores and work these crazy hours. And, I had to realize as an owner, one, their end game isn't my end game. And two, I always say this to myself and my kids are like, if you don't listen to your body, right, your body will take control and will have its own voice and will shut down on you.
Right. I think about, some of the times, especially through growth, is like one of the rules that I learned is like growing is great, but not at the expense of your people.
Right.
And one of the things that we established later in the retail business was this mentality that we win together, we never lose alone. And so if we felt like we were losing our people because we were scaling and growing too fast, that was unacceptable. Yeah. Right. And we talk a lot about values and missions and, living up to those things. And so when you're growing and scaling and you're trying to create this culture as well, right, where growth is fun and we're winning, but at the same time, it's like some people are physically getting burnt out. Some people are mentally getting burnt out, right? There's different phases and access to this burnout. It's mentally, some people spiritually, some people financially are getting burned out because they're trying to live up to a certain, stereotype, and spin, right? And so there's different phases to the burnout. When it comes to being able to create this culture, you talked about, stacked pickles, and huge fan of those. Maybe we can bring those back. We won't run it.
I got the recipes.
But, we talk about, all this growth and development, both in the restaurant and then, being in the tech space. When it came for me, I think for me, I was mentally fatigued, which physically I was still able to go. Right. And so sometimes we're able to do things to not necessarily deny the reality, but we mask it, and or we don't really notice it until, as you said, if you don't listen to your body will find a way to force you to sit down and shut up and say, hey, it's time for some recovery. What were some of those challenges once you realize, hey, I'm going through burnout, or our team is struggling with their burnout? And so when it comes to that, sometimes you make a minimal mistake that can cause fire and take over a whole situation, right? And so when you're fatigued mentally or physically, what are some things that you saw? What were some of the signs that you saw?
One of the things I always remember was a Coach Dungy. Like, I got stories about him all day, but we had just won 8 games in a row. We lost at home, I think, to Jacksonville on a field goal, like in overtime. We went to Kansas City. It was a shootout. We didn't punt. Neither team punted that game. Priest Holmes may or may not have jumped over me in the end zone, right? I'll talk about that. But we lost again. So we show up to the complex on Monday to watch film review. We're supposed to be there 12 o'clock for meetings. Typically, people are rolling in 11:55, 11:58. Like, everyone comes in 11:30. The room is silent, right? We lost 2 games in a row. It's a pretty big deal. Coach Dungy walks into a room, was like, hey, if we're in New England, we're going to cut 5 people. If we're in Philly, and he'll cut, 3 people. Over there in Pittsburgh, they'll cut 2 people. He's like, I'm not going to cut anyone. He said, we're going to go with the same group that won 8 games in a row. And he said, and not only that, I hear what you're saying about we're too basic. People are figuring this out, right? We need to add some more exotic blitzes, some coverages. We need to add some trick plays, something like that. We're not going to do anything like that. Actually, we're going to remove them. We're going to do what I call addition by subtraction. So we're not going to get better by doing more. We're going to get better by doing less. And that mentality of anytime I feel burnout, if I feel that overwhelmed, I really start looking at, all right, what things can I cut out?
Yeah.
Right? Because what things am I doing that I don't necessarily need to be doing?
Yeah. Simplicity.
Because so many times it's like we want to compete and we want to keep up with the Joneses, and we saw another company do something, and I would always say this. My employees, right, Scotty's or someone else or a discount or special or losing people to them. I was like, look, we can see they're special, but we can't see their P&L.
Yeah.
We don't know if that's making them money.
Yeah. That's true. You say a lot there. So when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking, sometimes burnout isn't exhaustion.
Yeah.
Sometimes burnout is misalignment.
Yeah.
Sometimes burnout is doing more than you need to.
Exactly.
And in your case, and Tony Dungy's saying, Coach says, simplicity is the key. Yeah. You say those things, and it reminded me of a story, especially like simply just simplifying things, and let's just get better at what we do. Let's master our craft and be great at that. And it reminded me of 2 things. One, it reminded me of, man, I want to do all these different things, and I want to be good at 10 different things versus just being great at that one position, like being a great linebacker, being a beast at what you do. Don't try to be a defensive lineman and get in their gap. Stay in your lane and master your craft, right? And so I think about that. Another one in the restaurant business, Chick-fil-A. Everybody knows about Chick-fil-A. And I remember this story of Dan Cathy in a time where, it's funny, Boston Market was coming out. And Boston Market was not even really, in my perspective, a competitor of Chick-fil-A. Right. 2 different things, right?
Not chicken sandwiches, but they serve chicken.
But the family at the time was thinking there's momentum in our industry, in our food space, and all they have to do is gain ground and then flip a script. What if they come out with chicken sandwiches on top of all the things? Yeah. And so there was so much worry with the family and also in the boardroom that they wanted to get bigger. Boston Market was planting places all over, and the fight every board meeting for months was, Dan, we have to get bigger.
We have to grow.
And he finally said, let's stop, right? Let's think about this. And he ended all conversations with a simple thing. We don't have to get bigger. We just have to be better.
Wow.
We just got to be better. And so when it comes to, staying healthy and in the right mindset and understanding what burnout truly is, sometimes burnout isn't exhaustion. Sometimes we burn ourselves out because we're misaligned with the overall value purpose that we set for ourselves, and we drain ourselves. You said it before in a previous episode where we find ourselves shoveling a hole for ourselves. We just got to stop, right? Pause what we're doing and really let's get aligned back to the practical principles in there, because sometimes burnout isn't exhaustion. Sometimes burnout just misalignment. Sometimes it's how we spend our time. It's the rhythm. There's a lot of work-life balance, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm George. I can't balance work and life. I'm one person. But what is the rhythm of my life? What's the rhythm of my personal life right now? Sometimes it's very slow and steady. And then you put kids involved in, you put family involved in, and sometimes it's like the rhythm's like boom, boom, boom. It's like it goes from EDM to the slow pace R&B.
It's funny you say that because I don't look at life as this work-life balance. I look at it as a dance. Yeah. And the different seasons as parents, as your kids, it's AAU season, it's grind time, right? It's 8-hour, weekend tournaments. But summertime, they're out, right? It's working out, but then it's grinding at work. So I look at it as a dance, and you said sometimes EDM, sometimes music, and I just, for me, I feel like I always have to have a song playing in my head, right? And that kind of keeps me going in terms of like what season I'm in, based on what song is playing in my head. Yeah.
And so it's that balance, like finding that rhythm. What's the groove right now, and finding a safe space. When I think about burnout for me, and I've been there many times, and I coach people out of burnout. Yeah. And it's really finding yourself, because when you're trying to scale, and at the end of the day, there's the number one rule of business that I've learned. Shout out to Ryan McCarty. He used to always say this: number one rule in business is to stay in business. After that, there are no other rules.
That's a great rule,
right? And if you don't do number one, there are no other rules. But also, as you're scaling, and a lot of companies that do this, you'll scale and you'll grow, and then you'll turn around and you'll say, "Man, we lost the soul of who we were in the beginning." And so there's this projection of we want to scale and grow. But how do we do so without losing our people, without losing the one thing that's important, but also gaining profit, right? So the mindset of a operator owner, especially if you got a CFO involved, is how do we get profit? Right. And sometimes we try to gain profit at the expense of our people instead of building our people to be able to gain the profit in that investment. What are some strategies? Because I want this to be some real practical things, and you name one, I'll name one. Just a few basic things that helped you get from the burnout stage back to where you needed to be. What was one thing? And we just go back and forth until we have 3 or 4 of them. But what's the main key for you when it comes to scaling without burning out?
So one of the things that I understood as a leader and as a CEO, that I had to be both in the business that I'm currently in and in the future of that business. So I have to think through some obstacles or some adversity that's coming down the pipeline and keep myself, ready and positioned properly for some of those changes. Where I would get burnt out, and what I had to learn was like, I can't have those conversations with all my employees because now they're thinking like, what do you want me to do? I feel like I put too much on them. Yeah. So I feel like I can strategically think through some of those things and map them out and know that like, that's a rainy day like situation. But I think, sometimes as an owner or as leadership, you can't give everyone everything at once because they'll be overwhelmed from like, all right, what's the priority? Yeah. So I think really looking at your priorities and going from one step at a time, that task list, checklist, that mentality where things are actually getting done.
Yeah. When I think of scaling without burnout, I look at it and I say, what caused the burnout for me? And the root of my burnout the first time I had it was that I became pace over purpose. Right. It was about growth. It wasn't about the purpose of our company. It became, how do we plant flags? And it was the opposite of Dan Cathy. Right. We wanted to plant flags. We wanted to grow so big that we measure growth by a different metric. We forgot our
funny
purpose.
about that? When same thing. I think the curse of an entrepreneur is that we think every time we grow, it's going to be a home run.
Yeah.
Like I didn't realize in business, like the red can actually turn to black.
Yeah.
Or the black can go into like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you can grow another store and lose money.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of money, and that can mess up your main thing. So I think pace over purpose, or purpose over pace, is so important. You keeping the main thing.
Yeah, and then it became, Gary, it was like people became cogs, right? They became part of the financial reports, and that's when I realized we've lost our purpose. Yeah. Right. We decided to pace ourselves over the purpose of why we first did it in the first place. And we lost that vision. And I think sometimes in reality of life is that we try to pace ourselves. We try to figure a different pace. We want to grow. For me, I'm always wanting to be busy. I'm always looking like, how can I invest in something else? How can I be involved in something that's growing? And it's just my mindset. I never say, hey, what's the purpose? Yeah. What's your purpose? And remember to be able to champion that. The other one that really struck me, Gary, and I'm gonna throw it back to you, was there was a lack of prioritization. Like I had a lack of priorities. And the moment you have a lack of priorities, this is what triggers it, because you lose your greatest ROI. A lot of people say money is the greatest ROI. I've lost a lot of money. I'm sure you've been in the same boat. Lost a lot of money, but we know how to get some money. Yeah, exactly. We'll rebound. Ain't a big deal. I lost a lot of friendships. You lose any friendships?
A bunch of friendships.
So those ROIs, people and money, those are things that we can always figure a way to get it back. The ROI that we lost because we lost our priority was time. Right. You can't get that back. Your greatest ROI in life is time, because it's the one thing you cannot rewind, pause, or stop. And it's not that people have time management issues. They have priority management issues. Wow. Because we all get 24 hours in a day. But if we don't set our priorities in line, that's where we lose things, right? Social media is a killer of most distractions, right? And so you get these distractions and you lose priority of what you need to focus on. And the moment you lose priority, you start trying to rob Peter to pay Paul. Right. And you're just trying to rob time to flip things. Then you're trying to put financials here to pull over here. We're cutting marketing budget because COGS over here, and you lose it. And so for me, it was pace over purpose. And then we lost the lack of prioritization and what was important for us. What was another one for you?
I think for me, and it goes along with your time, but start treating your yeses and nos as currency. Like every time I say yes to someone else, I'm saying no to myself. Yep. Because there's only 24 hours in a day. Yeah. So if I take on someone else's problem, if I go help someone else do something, I'm pushing something back that I want to get done. Yeah. And at a time, I didn't want to let people down. I'm a recovering people pleaser, right? Yeah. So if I always wanted to say yes, like you can count on me, yes. Yeah. But being able to be counted on doesn't mean you always say yes. Yeah. It means sometimes you have to be your own priority and you have to say no. Yeah. And realizing no is a complete sentence. I don't have to explain myself.
That's a period. There's no question mark. Right. It's an exclamation point, is if anything.
Yeah. So I think that really changed my mind. And the crazy thing is, and you talked about losing friends, your phone stops ringing a lot. When you stop saying yes to everything and to everyone, right? Your phone stops ringing. It gets dry. Right. But that's OK, because I think when you're scaling and when you're trying to protect yourself, and they say it on the airplanes, right? In case of an emergency, like put your oxygen mask on first before you help anyone else. Yeah. And I think when I'm facing burnout, I got to realize, I got to put my own mask on first and protect myself.
Yeah. So you get those things. Let's move it now to this mindset of, in the workplace, it means something different. And so I'll share a little bit. I'm part of a company, Lighthouse Research and Advisory. A good friend of mine, Ben Eubanks, brought me into this crazy industry and world. And one of the things that really stood out to me, we did some research on learning. Right. One of the biggest things about this learning research that we did was that we asked specific questions then on belonging. Like, do you feel like you're impacted? Because we wanted to see, the influence of leadership. We wanted to see the influences of their priorities. And one of the biggest things that people find that was important in the workplace, outside of pay, right? Yeah. Pay is typically up in the top, but outside of pay, one of the top two was burnout, right? That was the issue when people was talking about why they're going to either leave a company or stay with a company. Pay, burnout, and stress.
Wow.
Right. Was top three. And then I was like, all right, let's take this deeper. Where the issues align? Because I've seen a lot of people in our company when we started, like pay wasn't a priority because there's other things that they loved, right? Where they were getting invested in. We were pouring into them to not just pay them to do their work, but they also have a sense of why, right? We were investing in. We did, main events where we had Genius U, where we were bringing in people to do financial literacy. Wow. Right, teaching them how to maintain their money because you get paid on Friday, but you can't afford gas to come to work on Monday. Right. What's going on? So we were investing in them. We invested in their leadership. We invested in their well-being and health. We were bringing in people to help. We did health challenge. We did, group of we did the Biggest Loser type deal, right? And we rewarded them. And we wanted to encourage people to stop smoking. We realized how much people was spending on breaks. We give you breaks, but some people just spending breaks, just smoking and smoking. Yeah. So what's the health environment? And then you also see the mentality of what that does to them from a physical standpoint. And so we wanted to invest in those things. And so pay wasn't necessarily always an issue for our company. What I found, it was interesting because now 10 years later, I'm like, man, this is some of the issues that we had in our tech business is that people didn't feel like they belong. And so when we ask this question, Gary, the psychological definition of belonging is I feel accepted,
right?
I feel respected, and I feel appreciated. Those three words: accepted, respected, appreciated. Not by everybody, but we're just talking your direct leader, direct manager. And the impact that had was crazy, right? For those people with high belonging, just very simple. People with high belonging scores were 5 times more likely to say, this is a great place to work.
Wow.
People that said, I feel respected, accepted, respected, and appreciated. That's a tongue twister. A-R-A, right? Yeah. Accepted, respected, and appreciated. We're 5 times more likely to say, this is a great place to work.
We would always say that people generally don't quit jobs, they quit people.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. Being accepted, respected, and appreciated by your direct supervisor will mean so much to people, at their jobs.
Yeah. So it's important. And I bring that in because I think when people have that sense of belonging, it changes the mindset. And I believe it also lowers the burnout.
Yeah.
Right? Whether you're scaling, growing, or you're just becoming better at what you do, I think it's important for leaders to understand the importance of creating an environment, one, of belonging. Yep. And then there's another practical aspect, and we can dig into this in a future episode, but we talk about like psychological safety within the workplace where, man, I don't know if I can go to my leader and say how I'm feeling.
Right.
When we talk about burnout, some people know that they're burnt out, but if they say something or, hey, I need a mental day, I need some time to myself, they're afraid of being replaced and or saying, oh, you're not cut from this mentality. You're demoted, right? You're not cut from the same cloth. I used to say that all the time, and I realized how dumb I sounded because we all different. I got older people that wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning before the sun rises, working. I ain't cut from that cloth, right? I had to work. I had to understand the why, the purpose behind it. Get some of your best work done because everybody else is sleeping. There ain't no distractions. Social media is not hot or trending typically, in those hours. But being able to balance those things. And so there's importance of having that balance and creating a sense of belonging. Creating that team environment. Creating that, some people use the word family. I don't like to use family because I don't like to hire family, number one. And sometimes it's tough firing them at the same time. But I bring that up because I think creating a place of belonging does something different to an individual, where there's safety, where I can come to my leader. Share a little bit about that importance of having that sense of belonging where you feel accepted, respected, and appreciated, and how that impacts you mentally, physically, to be able to do what you do best.
I think I can remember at Stack Pickle having a meeting with a manager. They were performing great for like 2 years, and then all of a sudden for a 4-month span, they kind of fell off and becoming late, not handing out our reports. So we brought them to the office to have a conversation. You got their P&L, you're doing your report. And as a leader, I I could just see like the overwhelm on his face. I pushed the paper away. I was like, man, how you doing?
Yeah.
He was like, I closed like, no, I'm like, no, how are you doing? How's the family? How's everything doing? And he just broke down and then let me know that him and his wife was trying to have a baby. She unfortunately had a miscarriage. She wasn't doing well. So sometimes he stays home and makes sure she gets out and goes to work before he can go to work. And that's why he was late.
Yeah.
And it was just like, all right, we can push back your end time and have someone else open and do some different type things that make that happen. Man, he was the most loyal employee ever. And having that conversation of, I think was a place that he felt like he could belong. That I wasn't going to judge him because he was dealing with a family issue.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. I think it's like having human conversations with people.
Yeah.
And not waiting until it's too late when someone says, hey, I'm ready to quit, I'm leaving. They then have the conversation, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
I think as a leader, you have to check in with your people to see how they're doing, because we know when things are crazy and when we're pushing the pace.
Yeah.
Right. So you got to check in and say, hey, you good? You still with me? And I think that's important for people to understand, like, all right, man, at least he asked me, you know, am I good? You know, or just say offer him like, hey, man, I know we're going hard. I think your kid has a game or something today. If you want to leave early at the office and make sure you make the game, that's cool. We'll just talk about it tomorrow. I think your people will those are the people, like you said, 5 times more likely to stay because they belong, have that relationship, and feel like, you know, they matter in that company.
Yeah. Just to wrap up and do some challenges, because I love giving us some challenges out there. We talked a lot about the importance of rhythm over relentless speed, right? Having a rhythm, having a balance there in your life, and being able to find that importance. We talked about, obviously, sometimes, you know, becoming bigger is not always better.
Yep.
You got to be able to have that. And then it's always alignment with your purpose, alignment with your core values, alignment with your promises to yourself over activity. And so final thoughts, Gary, on scaling without burning out. What's some things that you can give to the people to encourage them, to inspire them, to help them in their journey, whether they're in this stage of burnout and they're feeling it, or whether they're out of it? Because sometimes once you're out of it, it's like, is the boogeyman coming back? Yeah, right? Exactly. Is the burnout man coming back? Speak to the people and give them some.
Yeah, I think it always goes back to keeping the main thing. I think, you know, most times you walk inside of companies, on the wall is their mission and their values. And, you know, when I'm coaching companies, when I'm coaching people, I always ask them, are your values real or are they aspirational? Because when they become aspirational, when you say you want to have work-life balance, you want to create a family-oriented, chemistry at work. You want to make sure people have family time. Are those things actually happening? And oftentimes when you experience burnout, that's when you're farthest away from those values that you set in the beginning. Yeah.
So good. Well, ladies and gentlemen, listen, I want to make sure that people understand, especially in the audience, we are here. We do coaching.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're looking for keynote speaker, just to shout out some of the things that we do, Lighthouse Research, we have research as well, but Gary, we have coaching, we have leadership development and programs of that nature, whether you're trying to get yourself leadership on, or if you're trying to get your personal business and your team to develop leadership. Those are things that we are passionate about doing as well. And we want to thank you. Listen, scaling is not a win if your people are not winning with you. And I think that's the outcome of today, is that if you're going to scale and grow, make sure you're scaling and growing with the health and the mental aspects of your team in mind. As always, Champion Blueprint, the podcast. I'm George Rogers, Gary Brackett. Till next time, remember to always champion your mind and champion your purpose.